Hello, everybody, and happy Thursday. Welcome to another Facebook Live. Let me do a couple quick shares here. And while I do that, feel free to share and invite your friends too, if you'd like. Friends, family, if you want to host one of those little watch parties that we learned about, you can definitely do that. If you want to tag some friends, invite some friends, whatever the case may be, but get them on board here. We got a couple of good things to discuss and some powerful thoughts to impart, some good ahas, some ideas, and oh shit, I just did the wrong one. And of course, since it's live, it's going to be some boo-boos like that where I'm misclicking. But anyways, I'm just going to share this real quick on a couple of my other pages. And then while we do that, I will get going. So while I'm doing that, why don't you say hello, let me know where you're logging in from, and what is your favorite happy hour beverage? I'm just thinking about that because I'm going to grab a happy hour right after this with a friend. Jamie, hey, how are you? James, what's up, James? How you doing, buddy? Back here for the Vegas photos, huh? Let me just share this really fast over on this one, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll. So I have a story that I want to share with you all today, and I thought it was kind of pertinent to today's subject. And this is a true story too. When I was right after I finished college, I lived in a house with 5 other guys. I guess there was 5 guys total. So it was me, and then there's 4 other guys in there. And I should have known that this was to happen because one of the guys in there, I don't know what his deal was. Hey, Kathy, how are you? Lisa, hey, good to see you. Courtney, what's up, Courtney? One of the guys never really unpacked his room, and so you could literally, yeah. Let's do that, James. I'm totally down for that. That would be awesome. This one guy, he never unpacked his room, so he lived in the house for almost a year, and you couldn't see his floor. I don't know how the hell he went back and forth with it, but he was a total mess, and so it was a sign of things to come. And in a house with 5 guys, we had one community trash can in the kitchen, we had a community trash can in the bathroom, and another. So there's a master bathroom that had 2 people in it, and then there was a kind of communal bathroom that was the other 3 of us, plus whoever else would show up and come over to visit, and barbecues and all those types of things. And I would often look at myself as the adult of the house. I would take the trash out, clean up, because some of them, I wouldn't want to call them lazy, but they just didn't necessarily have the same standards of getting stuff done that I did. Get to give you just an aside, one of them, he was notorious for, instead of going through the refrigerator and actually figuring out what he needed and getting rid of stuff or using up what he had, he would just go to the store and buy more because he was I shouldn't say he's too lazy. He was unwilling to go and figure out if he actually needed something new. And one time the refrigerator was at capacity, and I said, this is ridiculous. There's got to be space to be made. I pulled out 12 to 18 cans or jars of half-used pasta sauce because he just kept going and buying more pasta sauce and more pasta sauce. This was right after college, so pasta was a staple in a house full of a bunch of guys. It was cheap, it was bulky, and could fill you up. And he just kept buying pasta sauce and pasta sauce and pasta sauce, and it was taking up all the space. So he wasn't too apt or motivated to clean up after himself. The communal trash in the kitchen, I would be the one that would routinely take it out. And it wasn't like this was asking a lot. It wasn't like we had to trudge through 3 feet of snow to get rid of it, or we had to lug it down the neighborhood with a pack of ravenous dogs down the street or anything like this. We literally had to go outside the front door, turn to our right, walk approximately 7.5 feet, I may have counted it before, over to the big trash can and put it in there, and that was that. I finally got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let this go and see what happens and see if these other guys are actually going to step up and do it, because I couldn't take it. So what happened was I stopped. One day I said, okay, that's it, enough. I'm not going to take the trash out. And for over a week and a half, what I would see them do is I would see them come over to the trash. I literally observed these with these 2 eyes. They would put something on top of it that clearly didn't fit because the trash was at capacity. Then rather than picking up and putting it outside, they would put their foot in it or put their hands on it and start shoving it down, start depressing it down, trying to be their own proverbial trash compactor. Okay, whatever. Being a little creative here, I'll give them credit for that. Bought them some time. But what happens when the trash can't hold anymore? right? Eventually, anything gets that capacity, and you can only shove it down for so much until what happens? It starts to overflow, it starts to spill on the floor, which is what ours started to do. So these guys shoved it down so much, and then they just started piling stuff on, Now, it could balance a little bit for a while. It could sustain that. It wasn't very stable. It wasn't very steady, but it would, what the hell? Why did it just end? It could sustain that for a little while. I'm not sure why that one just ended. Hold on one second. It just kicked me out of my live video. It's still going on one side. Sorry about that, everybody. It kicked me out for some reason. I'm not sure why I did that. But anyways, the trash, when it was piled up to capacity like that, it could sustain it for a little while. It wasn't very stable, but it was always teetering on this place of spilling over and getting on the floor and maintaining it. Well, eventually the day finally came where it spilled over. And the trash could no longer sustain the amount of compacting and depressing that happened, so it spilled over. Now, you would think at this point enough would be enough. They would have it, they'd be fed up with it, they couldn't take it anymore, but no. They just kept stacking it on top, and then more trash would spill over, more trash would spill over, more trash would spill over until it started to get on the floor. I remember one time a friend of mine came over, and he walked in, and he was so shocked by it, and he started laughing. He's got his phone out and started taking photos of it. And he would use that as my as my photo in his contacts in his phone for a long time thereafter, because he got a kick out of it. But the point was they never were willing to pick it up. They were never willing to get rid of it. Now, here's the metaphor of this. Oftentimes in life, we treat our mental and emotional well-being, we treat our relationships, we treat things that are going on that we need to take care of as the trash. We know we need to tend to it. We know we need to empty it out. We know we need to get rid of it, but we don't. Instead, what we do is we keep depressing it. We kept pushing it down. We keep pushing it down. We keep pushing it down, thinking it's going to go away, thinking it's going to take care of itself, thinking that if we just bury it, we won't have to deal with it, or the next day it won't be there. But it doesn't happen that way. What does end up happening is eventually we shove things down so far that we hit capacity. We're literally at this point where we're about to explode if something doesn't happen. Now, you'd think that'd be enough, but oftentimes it isn't. Because then we just try to pile on a little bit more. We try to pile on a little bit more. We try to pile on a little bit more. And so now there's this constant teetering where we feel like 1 minute we're okay, but the next minute we're about to snap and bite somebody's head off. Or we're okay 1 minute, but the next minute we're about to, cuss our partner out, or feel like we're going to walk out on our job, or we're just going to give up on our health goals, or whatever that is. The reason is because we all have a finite capacity for how much we can actually depress, how much we can push down. And it's not until we express or do something about it that we can create long-lasting and sustainable change. See, at any given time, anybody could have gone and picked the trash up, walked the 7.5 feet outside, dumped it out, and been done with it and started fresh. There would have been no danger of it spilling on the floor. There would have been no toxicity. There would have been no smell. But they weren't willing to. At any given time in our life, if we find ourselves stuck, if we find ourselves struggling in an aspect of life, whether it's our relationships or health, or whether we just feel like we're up against the proverbial wall and things aren't bad, but we want to get through this so we can go to the next level, but we got a hell of a headache because we kept banging our head, thinking it's going to be able to take the wall down. At any given time, we can do something about it. We can stop what we're doing and we can take the stuff out. We can empty it out. We can express. We can deal with what's on our mind and heart. And then we can create space for something new. Because if we don't, things get toxic really quick. The trash that spilled on the floor was the least of our problems, right? Because now we have all this stuff that's been buried down in there for who knows how long. That, of course, smells. That, of course, has bugs that start to get attracted to it and all sorts of other beautiful things that I'll spare you the vivid description of it. You can imagine if you've ever been in a similar situation as this. And as gross as all that was, none of it is ever as toxic, as gross, or as detrimental as depressing our own internal trash, as depressing our own internal stuff that we're not dealing with, as it is to depress down the things that keep us stuck, the things that prevent us from enjoying fulfillment and passion in a relationship, the things that keep us from having the career and earning the income we want, the things that keep us from bonding and forming long-lasting and meaningful relationships with our kids, our family, our friends, our loved ones. The things that prevent us from having better health, just a more awesome life. Because we're not emptying out our own trash. We're not dealing with our own stuff. Instead, what we do is we throw our hands up and we resolve and say, you know what? It's out of my control. It's this person's fault. It's their fault. He didn't get back to me. She called me this. He said that. She did this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'll deal with it tomorrow. Maybe this is true. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this is all I deserve. Maybe this is as good as it gets. I should be grateful for where I'm at, and so on and so on and so forth. And it's not to say that any one of these pieces are bad, just like throwing away your trash. It's not a bad thing. But it's when you don't do something with it, that's where it gets to be toxic. So if I could impart you all with one message from my post-college roommates, it's this. Empty out your friggin' trash. The stuff that starts to accumulate here and here. And if you do, I promise you, the quality of your life going forward will be immensely more fulfilling. If you need some help doing this, do not hesitate to reach out. I not only got to be a really good trash empty outer at that house, but I'm pretty damn good with helping people do it for their life too. So this isn't to say things have to be horrible for you to be this person. It could be things are really great, but you just want really awesome. And we can do that too. So if you need some help dumping out the trash, getting unstuck, getting from where you are to where you want to be, you know where I'm at. Don't hesitate to reach out, send me a message, and I will be there to respond to it. Otherwise, anybody have any questions about this? Questions at all? Is this helpful? And I'm sorry for those of you who got cut off in the middle. There's going to be a part 1 and a part 2 on this. Questions at all? Earth to social media land. Oh, cool, Courtney. Courtney, what about if you have been stuffing it down for so long you don't even know how to address it, deal with it? That's where I would definitely recommend reaching out to someone, Courtney, either someone like myself or I'm not everybody's cup of tea, somebody else who does something similar to what I do. There are some great people out there who are experts at helping people do that, because I think what you just articulated is one of the most truths of it all. Is we could be in a place where we've been shoving it down for so long that we forgot that we're even doing that, and that we don't even know where it is to start or where the trash can is outside, because it's been so long since we even took it out there and emptied out. And I would encourage each and every one of you who are in a space like that, who feel that, and I really applaud Courtney for being courageous enough to ask that question, because I think if we're all honest enough, many of us are there. This is where it's imperative to reach out for help. I use the analogy often of, if there's a plumbing problem, especially in the baño, and I don't know the first thing about plumbing, I'm not going to sit there and try to figure out how to do that. I'm going to call and reach out to somebody who's a professional and he can help it, because otherwise that shit can be really messy and it can get really messy really quick. And if I were to try to do it on my own, it could get messy. It could get nasty much sooner and much quicker before it got better. And if I want to get it done as effectively and as efficiently as possible and accelerate my own progress on my own journey, I'm going to definitely reach out for that person who's an expert in that to help them do that. It's a good question. What other questions you all have? Angie, do you ever wish you hadn't thrown the garbage out? Not at all. I don't miss that garbage at all one bit. The only thing I regretted about that is I should have taken a better photo of it, because it would be a great one to show. It'd be a great one to include with it all here. But just imagine, a typical size kitchen trash can, and about how tall it is, about how wide it is, about how big it is. And imagine it being overfilled about 2 feet too high. And then imagine about almost an equivalent amount of trash spilled over onto the floor. Hey, Linda, good to see you on here. Did you get my email, Linda? I sent you an email a little bit earlier. Kelly, hey, Kelly, how are you? Simple reminder, but so true. Good, I'm glad. Thanks, Kelly. Does that answer your question, Angie? Good question. And Courtney, was that helpful for you? Any other questions? I have about 3 to 5 more minutes so I can get one more question in there if you have it. I'm here to help, so don't hesitate to ask, because I promise you that the question that's on your mind is probably on somebody else's mind too. And let's also consider people who will watch this in a replay. Cheryl, I definitely feel like the trash I've had that I've learned quite a bit from, but still throwing out more. Good for you. Congratulations. Oftentimes we will hold on to it. We'll hold on for a variety of reasons. We don't realize we're holding on to it. We have some emotional attachment to it. It keeps us firmly planted with one foot in the past. We don't think that we deserve or deserving of life without it. That we start to believe maybe that our life is just meant to be lived, carrying around that trash, and so on and so forth. But I promise you, life is, and those of you on here who have done your own cleanings and cleansings of it know that it really is extremely empowering beyond that. Kathy, very helpful. Oh, thanks, Kathy. And thanks for checking in on YouTube. I appreciate it. Maybe throwing it out sooner would have been advantageous. Yes, it's always better to get it sooner. Don't wait till you're at the almost toxic level. And if you're at that toxic level, let's get rid of it and dump it out now. And if any of you are getting closer to that, let's not wait. Let's dump it out now. And if any of you have just started filling up, you don't need to wait till it's overflowing. Let's dump it out now. What if we have to do the emotional labor for others? Great question, Kathy. So I would really encourage you all to examine that, because there's sometimes a belief that we have to take on the emotional weight of other people, or we have to do the emotional dirty work. And we're responsible for ourselves and ourselves only. And sometimes when we feel we're in this position where we feel like we have to take on or we have to do for others, what I would encourage you all to do is, rather than direct your attention and your focus on as to how you can better manage others or how you can take on or help or do these things for others, really focus on how you can maximize yourself. And rather than doing for others, be the light for them to follow. Be the light that illuminates the path. This really goes to the adage of lead a horse to water, can't make it drink. Teach a person to fish. Give a person a fish that you feed for a day. Teach them to fish, they can live for life. And if we try to put ourselves in a position where we're always doing for others, then we're doing nothing more, really, as noble as our intentions may be, we're doing nothing more really than giving them a fish and kind of just conditioning them to be dependent on us. I'm much more of an advocate of build up a thriving fishing industry for yourself so that you're sustainable indefinitely, and then show other people by the light that you shine what's possible. Because odds are that oftentimes we connect with and we're close to people who are like us. And so there will be some commonality. There's some part of themselves they see reflected in you. And if you can be a beacon of light for what's possible for them, it can illuminate a path for them to follow and relieve you of your emotional burden and your emotional duty. Great question. All right, everybody. I hope this has been helpful. I appreciate each and every one of you being on here. Thank you so much for those of you who shared it. For those of you who are hitting the emoji buttons on this, I appreciate the more you engage, the more you interact with it, the more you put comments on it, the more it goes out to Facebook, YouTube, and they say this is something worthwhile, and they'll send it out to more people. Extra big thanks to those of you who took the time to ask questions. I promise you your questions were questions that other people were likely thinking of too. So I hope the answers not only served you, but I can assure you that your questions have served other people as well. So thank you for being bold enough to ask them. I'll be back here tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit earlier just because of my schedule. And I will be sure to jump on here, though, with a end of the week message. I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to be here. Sending lots of love to you, whether it's morning, noon, or night. Make the most of this moment right now. Carpe diem. Seize your day. Seize your moment. We'll see you later, everybody. Bye-bye.